Hi, this is TMQE Travels and today we are in Brittany! Brittany is a region in northern France filled with medieval castles and towns.
For our road trip, we stay mostly on the eastern side of the region, but there's plenty more to explore on the west coast too.
This is Jérémy's sister, and I want you to explain to me how would a cool young person from Paris say, "We love it!
On adore!
On adore!
On adore!
Vitre!
Vitre.
On adore!"
Vitre is one of the finest examples of medieval towns that have been relatively well preserved from the days when the region passed back and forth between the French and the English settlers.
Victor Hugo listed it in The Hunchback of Notre Dame as one of only 4 towns in Europe he believed to contain a complete homogeneous Gothic town centre.
The castle actually contained its town hall, so if you ever need to see the mayor of Vitre, you have to go to his chambers inside the castle walls.
Which is totally normal for the 21st century, right?
Fougeres.
On adore!
Fougeres contains one of the largest medieval fortresses in Europe,
Built to defend the region from the French, is a pretty impressive structure.
but they failed.
What do you mean?
Well, it's in France, so how can you defend something French from being French?
Well, it may be France now, but Brittany is a region that has sought independence in the past. Though it's unlikely to ever happen, modern Bretons are Breton first, French second.
Just like this castle.
I do love a good water wheel.
So I had to try Breton food while we were there, like moule frites
Which is mussels,
and far breton,
which is a custody cake with dates.
and not the best cake I've eaten in France, and cidre.
Still, strong cider. Le Mont Saint Michel.
On adore!
The most famous site on our trip is undoubtedly the Mont Saint Michel.
An abbey in a castle on an island in a tidal estuary, the Mont is quite an imposingly beautiful spectacle.
Although you can now access it round the clock, it was historically only accessible on foot at low tide.
And I wouldn't advise trying to find your own way there across the river delta because there's quicksand, deep mud, and plenty of flesh-eating snails.
Really?
No, just mud.
The Mont Saint Michel might not actually be a mountain, but it's certainly very tall and very steep and involves climbing a lot of stairs.
While it's quite the climb to the top of the Mont, the tightly packed streets and sweeping vistas across the bay make it absolutely worth the walk.
Hang on, isn't the Mont Saint Michel actually in Normandy?
Well, that depends on who you ask. A portion of the border is the Quaint River, which has altered its course over the years and sometimes flows to the left on the Mont and sometimes to the right.
So it depends which way the river is flowing that day.
Yeah, something like that.
At the top is the 11th century abbey, which was built by an architect who clearly wanted to punish his workers. Imagine having to carry all that rock all the way up there.
The logistics of building something massive so high was also a bit of a challenge. Scores of crypts and underground chapels had to be built to support the weight of the abbey sitting above it.
In fact, there's so many supportive structures to keep the abbey at the top that the Mont Saint Michel is actually now more Saint Michel than Mont.
Sum up the Mont Saint Michel in 3 words, please, Jeremy.
In 3 words, I'd say historical, religious, and big. St-Malo.
On adore!
Sitting on the North Breton coast, St-Malo is a fortified town with tightly packed streets crammed inside imposing town walls.
Though heavily bombarded in World War II, the city retains much of its historic charm, even if it is remarkably dark for a seaside town.
St-Malo was historically an autonomous city and was even an independent city-state at one stage.
Renowned for being the home of numerous pirates, known as Corsairs, the city was a perfect hiding place where they could sail into a shattered port and hide from the authorities in its meandering streets.
But in the 16th and 17th centuries, they didn't even need to hide. With official approval from the French king, who would take a cut of their booty, they would sail the Atlantic and pillage whatever they could from the English, Dutch or Portuguese ships they encountered.
And St-Malo would be where they would bring their treasure.
The best thing about the city today is undoubtedly its walls, which you can walk entirely around.
Which is about 2 kilometers in total. Dinan.
On adore!
We visited Dinan as an afterthought, but it actually turned out to be one of our favourite stops on our tour around Brittany.
A riverfront medieval town, the picturesque town centre gives way to steep cobbled streets that lead down to the river and are crowded with authentic timber-framed medieval houses and shops.
Our favourite thing when we're away on holiday is when we come to see a particular site and then it's covered in scaffolding or building works. Just like that.
In truth, we visited Brittany solely for the purpose of going to Mont Saint Michel, but actually, the medieval towns are so unspoiled that they should be tourist destinations in themselves.
Although not all of it is unspoiled.
Rennes.
On n'adore pas.
The less said about Rennes, the better.
It's Brittany's biggest city and its capital, but yet its least impressive.
Typical.
So maybe skip Rennes when you come to Brittany, but mark our words, Brittany is one region of France that is absolutely worth exploring. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and follow us on Instagram.
At Through My Quirky Eyes.
And make sure you tune in for next time where we will be in
Budapest. Until next time, folks.
See ya.